But she
You know what I should have done? I didn't try any of their wines.
You did it, I did, but it's my temper.
That's what I.
She's a big girl. Should you make her?
You are, 'cause that's not it.
Oh, for what?
I had my way in.
You know, somebody's got the key.
Yeah.
Good evening. We will get started. Welcome to the June 27th meeting of IMU Board of Trustees of the Electric, Water, and Communications Utilities. Jackie, would you do roll call, please? Board Member White? There. Forbush?
Yeah,
Smith? Here. Rosga?
Yes.
Foyts?
Yes.
At this time, I would entertain any public comment. If you would step forward and mention your name and address, and we welcome any comment. We don't have the podium forward tonight.
Oh, no.
Is that unusual? Yes,
That's
we won't need it. Okay. We're gonna, so no public comment. We're gonna move on to a special thank you tonight. And it's a little bit out of order, just, I want to be conscious of the mayor's time. Leslie Forbush has served her term with IMU the last 6 years, and tonight is her last meeting with us. So we wanted to take a few minutes to say thank you to her. And she is with us through Zoom, so we can't see her necessarily. But we do want to extend a thank you to you. There's a plaque that Chris D will deliver to you, Leslie, that thanks you for your time with the board and your outstanding dedication and commitment to the continuation and success of the Indianola Municipal Utilities Organization. And it's dated February 16th, 2016 to June 30th, 2020. 22.
well, thank you so much. I will miss you guys, kind of.
Well, Leslie, Chris Longer did a little background, so I thought maybe I would share a few things that the board actually worked through while you were on your term, if you have a few minutes for that.
Yeah, I was kind of reminiscing with another board member recently, and when I started, we had just hired Rob, a new IMU manager, and shortly after that, we started working on the fiber. So we got fiber in, and buildings purchased, sold, renovated, started the fiber customer service call center, and now I feel like it's been wonderful because now we're looking at a solar field. I think it's going to be real exciting when we start moving towards Pella, working with Pella, and we got the legislature changed.
You're
So what a ride.
right. Well, you actually just told all the things that I had on my list to thank you for. So again, thank you. Mayor Erickson is here tonight, and I think she would like to say just a few words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Sorry, Leslie, let me grab a seat since there's no podium. And I've got notes written in 2 different places. All right. Board services is one of the toughest volunteer roles of all. For the past 6 years, you have performed your duties and dedication with tenacity. You distinguish yourself as an avid listener, organizer, intelligent, caring, generous, understanding, trustworthy, diligent, friendly, and a hard worker. There's an old saying that wisdom is knowing what to do next and virtue is doing it. You set the example of both of these. Once again, thank you, Leslie. On behalf of the City of Indianola and the IMU Board of Trustees, Chris will deliver a plaque to you. I would right now be presenting it to you. So let's just imagine I'm presenting it, Leslie. And thank you for the past 6 years and your service. And I would be remiss if I did not add thank you for being an advocate on the Municipal Trustees Independence Bill that we got passed this year. That's all I have. Thank you, Leslie.
Thanks, Mayor. So we'll go ahead and jump into the rest of our agenda, but if you do have a chance to see Leslie in the near future, please share your thanks with her. So
Well,
moving.
thank you all.
Yes. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have approval of claims. Is there any question or conversation around what we have in the packet? Okay, I would take them. Well, let's go ahead and just go through it all. How about approval of minutes from the last board meeting? Any questions or concerns?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Perfect. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes, consent agenda have been approved. The next item we have on the agenda is the approval of the custom rebate for Simplot AG, which was formerly Intrepid AG from my understanding, in the amount of $9,160. Chris Planks, would you like to give a little background on this?
Yeah, for background, we have some prescriptive rebates out on our website for customers, both businesses and residential consumers that, where appropriate, are there to offset some energy usage and save the community money. In instances where a project warrants and, typically that amount is at the $2,500 level, we have a $2,500 annual limit for all those rebates per customer. But in circumstances such as this one, where the project is large enough to warrant a dollar amount in excess of that, we have those businesses and or residential come forward, and we work with our engineers and IAMU staff that kind of helps develop some of the savings that would be involved for us. And we offer that back to the customer in the form of a rebate. In working with staff, or sorry, the IAMU staff recommendation was this $9,160, and that was ultimately calculated by the kilowatt savings, the annual kilowatt savings times a 0.019 cents per kilowatt hour. It comes in close to what our prescriptive rebates would have been. And, ultimately that 0.019 cents per kilowatt was based upon when and where this electrical load happens and what the devices were involved. You have in your packet some information about the kilowatts that would be saved and that rate. Do you have any further questions about how we derived at that amount? Or
Chris, just to clarify that, so you said 0.019 cents.
Oh,
Sorry, that's actually dollars. Right?
1.5 cents or
Yeah, 1.9
1.9 cents per kilowatt.
Yeah.
So Chris, when we spoke the other day, you mentioned that IAMU would help contribute to this rebate refund.
Yeah, mean would. So out of this 9160, we can mean will reimburse us $2,500. So our net cost for this project to the utility would be the difference. But yeah, we'll, after this is approved, we'll ask for that rebate from me and they'll contribute directly towards us. And we'll do the final payment on the account.
And am I recalling correctly that our budget for this type of activity or, the rebate is 50,000?
Yeah, we have,
So-
yeah.
So this would be just less than 20% of that budget.
Yeah.
Going to one customer. which-
Yeah. And this is the second large one for this year. We will, by all calculations, if any, normal sorts of June happens, we'll come in probably in the low 40s, 41, 42 with this approved. So, yeah, even with this, we won't spend our entire $50,000 budget on energy efficiency items.
Which is more than we spent in a while, I think. Yeah.
But we had two large ones, so
Yeah.
Simpson was in this past fiscal year as
Yeah.
well, right? So typically, we don't have the sizable rebates like that in a year.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and just for comparative purposes, our prescriptive rebates that we get information to, this was also the most successful year we've had, or the most money we've given out on that. And, we've had $2,500 months now. That's probably 10 different customers, but I don't know that we could find a time where, other than these custom rebates where we've contributed back to our customers $2,500. So those rebates are being used and utilized. So it's for everybody in the audience, check that out on our website, indianolaw.com. If you go to either forms or rates, will get you to that website. A lot of people are using those.
So if they are a customer like this and not the typical $2,500 rebate, the custom conversation, who do they reach out to?
Oh, yeah. And so for larger customers, please reach out to me. If you call our regular 961-9444 number, ask for me and we can get the custom rebate process started.
Okay. Any additional questions?
The 1.9 rate, is that since that came from IAMU or where?
Yeah, Jeff from IAMU recommended that. And I think, we struggled a little bit coming on a per device or per kilowatt. I think it's probably most appropriate on the kilowatt. The bulk of this is a lighting project. And so, a lighting project probably would qualify for, a particular range, and the equipment would qualify for the other. This is a blended rate based upon the facts and circumstances of the project. But a normal lighting project would probably be somewhere similar.
What do we budget for next year, Chris? If you recall,
The same.
same. I think it's been 50 for the last few years.
Okay, so this takes a vote.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion's passed. Thanks, Chris, for that information. Next on the agenda are the electrical utility items.
Yep, I can give you an update on a couple of things we talked about in the past. The truck, I did reach out to both the dealerships that we've been working with and getting bids. Given our specs, they have that, so they have the opportunity to order that truck. I've also expressed to them that if somebody declines the truck when it comes into them, that's close to our spec, but it's not to give us an opportunity. So moving forward with that.
Do they have a list of people that have said that? And do they have a waiting list?
Oh, they do. They think there's going to be a few more coming up just because fuel prices and things like that, their budgets, and they're just coming in more than some of these businesses were spending. So they're seeing a few more when they come in under trucks now. So keep your fingers crossed and see.
Their misfortune is our fortune.
Yeah, that's right. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is just the diesel fuel again for the turbines. We've got 70,000 next year, but we talked about pushing into next year's. So we've got a total of 140,000. Kind of give you some ideas of if we want to look at purchasing some fuel out on futures at today's price or tomorrow's price, be about $4.50 a gallon, which gets us just a little over about 31,000 gallons of fuel, which is not a whole lot. That's about
What's the price today, Mike?
$4.50.
What's the actual market rate today though?
That is, it's somewhere right there, 450. That's,
Okay. So the
it's already
future-
close
the
to
future rate
the
is
futures. Yeah.
similar to the current rate.
So the current rate, so futures, if we're looking, I'm gonna say like December, $3.87. January is 370 and February is 360. So if you go clear out to February, we're looking at 90 cents a gallon cheaper, which gets us roughly 7,800 gallons more, which is a full truckload.
So one of the questions we had last time was availability.
Yep, they still have availability. I will note that the national inventory of diesel is down about 20% as a whole. So the inventory is down, which is also driving some of that price as well. But no, we still have the opportunity. Did we buy it out on futures or do we?
I was gonna make a joke, but I won't.
Oh. But and to be honest, you know, we're this, we typically buy 10 truckloads of diesel fuel. This is what we're looking at. Yeah. Or sorry, we usually buy 10. We're looking at this going to buy 5 loads of diesel.
At this price, at the
At this
450.
current price, yeah, we typically see kind of, and if this will help a little bit. Now, this is at the pump. This is not off-road like we're purchasing, but you know, a year ago it was 321, a month ago it's 556, a week ago 564, and yesterday it's 577. So right now I can tell you that we're seeing it still trending up right now.
But I think other gas prices, not diesel, but other gases starting to come back down a little
They
bit.
are a little bit, yeah.
Are you worried at all that, the shortage?
Yeah, I mean, right now we've got, you know, for us just to supply, you know, if they call us up to generate, we've still got enough in the tank to do that for, you know, several days. I've reconfirmed with them that getting fuel, if I call them tomorrow, tell them we need fuel, it still says all full trucks are away to start filling tanks. So kind of, just kind of get your feeling again, and I hate to bring this up, but it's one of those things, I don't want us to lose track of it either, and I want to make sure we still do that, what we have, and don't miss out. But
Well, I would say the only concern I have, you already addressed, and that is if we need it tomorrow, we can get it pretty darn quick.
that's what he's telling me.
And so assuming that to be true, where we're at today and based on what you're telling us as far as where futures could be, of course, a lot can change in 6 months.
Right.
I personally think it's worth just letting it ride.
I agree.
That's what, that would be my, and I guess if you're looking, my recommendation was, you know, enough, I've got to bring this back in the form of a motion for next meeting or whatever, to give us authority to move forward by an the contract for like a February delivery or something like that, up to a certain dollar amount or certain gallons or whatever, we can take our best guess at it or whatever, but if I in the future, yeah, and if we do need it in the meantime, we buy it.
But no, that's not what I'm saying.
That's spot market.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're gonna buy futures unless I misunderstood what you just said.
Okay.
I'm just saying we're gonna wait and see what happens.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Buy what we need to.
Okay.
If we need to buy it at whatever the market price is at that time.
Okay.
Wait till prices go down, which I think will happen later in the summer, sometime in the fall. That's a prediction.
Well, and
Or your crystal ball.
And we're banking on it, that it'll still be available too.
Well, that's the kicker. I would say, obviously, if you learn that supply issue changes, then I'd say, well, then that's gonna change our ballgame. But if they can have trailers to us in 24, 48 hours or whatever it is.
It sounds like if you just stay in touch with them and understand where we're at from a supply standpoint.
And they know where we're coming from. We
bought the fuel from
Yeah.
for a long time. Yeah. Where we're coming from. And that's, I guess that's why I'm kind of bringing it to you, because he's not seeing the numbers go down. And I think that's why he's bringing the futures to us.
So you are saying buy futures.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
I didn't understand that part.
Yeah, I was, that's my,
I agree with you.
So we hold it out a little bit.
How,
Well, and,
you think it'll get lower than that,
and
than the 321?
Didn't you say January, February prices are in the 370
Three
range?
sixty for February, 370 for January.
So the market is expecting them to drop.
But what they're seeing right now is the markets are saying lower, but they're trending higher that month when they get there.
how many gallons capacity do we have that we could purchase?
We could purchase a little over 500,000, almost 600,000 gallons of fuel if we wanted. And right now, we're only looking at 30-some thousand gallons of fuel with the money we have budgeted. We'll just play it later, see what happens. I'll touch base with you. Or another month.
Well, what's the likelihood that the futures are gonna get any cheaper?
I don't know.
As time goes
That's
on,
why
I think they will. Yeah.
If we
Because
do.
once the word's out that there's a shortage, that'll drive the prices up again. And part of me says, let's buy it, and we don't have to buy the whole. Maybe buy some.
Are you, Leslie, you kind of cut out there. Are you
Oh.
saying by some,
I'm just thinking, you know, maybe, we don't, you know, not spend it all, but buy some at the futures price now, just as a little bit of insurance, because I don't know how long, I mean, if we have a couple of bad days, and we know we're gonna have blackouts, we are gonna be using that 70,000 that we, you know, some of the 70,000, and if we can kind of at least buy enough to keep it there at 70,000 as long as we can.
But we don't know that we're gonna have blackouts.
in fact, we said we probably would be less likely to have blackouts because of our position of transmission, right?
Yeah, less likely for our town,
Right.
but if there's,
Around
you know,
us.
regional blackouts, we would probably still be on because they would want us to generate more. That's,
Right.
so our likelihood to generate is, you know, is elevated, but our likelihood of being in a blackout ourselves is decreased.
So if we had to
because of our
generate
generation.
for above and beyond, would we have that to do? Have fuel to do it?
Right now, we've got enough, if we had to generate for 2 days or something like that, we've got enough fuel in the tank to generate for 2 days.
But I
Now,
mean-
if we see what's gonna, like, I mentioned before, that if we see that or forecast it after that first 24 hours, probably gonna call special meeting and say,
Yeah.
we need to start ordering some fuel.
And then we'll pay market price.
We will, but the one thing is to, we'll be also getting reimbursed that we'll get
Oh,
closer
that
on
would be
the average
nice.
price.
Yeah, we do. I mean, the bad position we're in there now is we made some good choices for the community to have fuel, but because that pushed down our average price, we don't get reimbursed. Right now, our contract with Mean reimburse us for the fuel at $1.64, $1.65, which,
Over time, that'll work.
Yeah, it works out, but it doesn't sound good right now.
yeah, but if we had to come up with $100,000, obviously a third of that would get reimbursed and we'd have to come up with a difference out of our pocket. So, that's,
So we're kind of all over the place here with this conversation. Are we wanting Mike to hold and keep an eye on it? Get to where he's
I can
at?
Yeah, because I maybe this will help. We've been on standby. We have not been asked to generate yet, and we've had some hot days that they could have possibly called us. So I feel a lot better at this point, going into the summer. That if we would have been called up by now, then I think my position would stand. We change maybe a little bit more, but us not in there. We still got the same amount of fuel. We do have the exercise that we come up and to prove our capacity in July, where we run both of those turbines for 2 hours each. So there'll be some fuel use there, but
At what point in July is that, Mike?
I want to say it's the 3rd week of July, somewhere in there. About a month from now. I don't know if this will help you or if this will confuse more, but that difference of 10 cents between like January and February in the future is what we can't afford to buy. The only difference is that allows that turbine to run for 3 minutes. So that's the difference of 10 cents.
Thanks, Mike.
That's good for me. Anything else you'd like to add?
That's it. That's all the good news.
I appreciate that.
I still think I'd sit on the sideline. Let's see what, if we got enough to run. Because when we are asked to run, it's not like we run straight for 24 hours as a rule. So
I can say, I mean,
you've never seen
I've
that.
never seen us, like, we're running for 24 hours.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I've seen 8 hours, or up to 10, but nothing.
So let's monitor it and just at each of our meetings, kind of just checkpoint on where we're at. And if we need to take action, we can decide at that point. Otherwise, we'll hold the course.
Yeah, sounds good.
Or
Yeah,
we're
and Mike,
always available
Mike,
for
if things, if things change quickly, you can always call an emergency board meeting for us to give you the go-ahead.
Yep, no, absolutely.
Okay. Are there other items?
No, that's fine.
Okay. How about water utility items?
A couple weeks ago, we had a crew coming in to clean, scrub, and bail out and install the new pump and motor at well 11. I wasn't able to come to the meeting because I got a call in the afternoon. All 4 of the people on the crew come down with COVID. So they were able to bring a crew in from Marion, hold them off the job for us. They worked a lot of hours. They did a real good job, good group. Was out there. They preferred to work in the evenings when it was a little cooler, so we were out there a lot during that. The pump in, everything's bolts, amps, pumpage, everything's great. DNR report come back good. So we're rolling back that one. Today I got 4 contracts, a little over $200,000 for our SCADA upgrades, our filter upgrades, our RTU upgrades on our remote sites that we had put in our capitals for the next year. So we'll get that ball rolling. I'm going to sign them and get them forwarded on so they can get the material ordered. It might not be next year with the way things are going. It might be a year out on some of them, but or at least we want to be proactive on that. So we got that going. They've got about 1,000 feet laid over there on the West Boston project. They're sure hoping to get out of that D and Boston intersection. That's a main thoroughfare to get to Irving School, and they're going to start in a couple weeks. So they need and want to get out of there. Water, storm sewer, everything's done. It's just a matter of, they got the one crew going west on West Boston and it's the same boys that are doing the streetscape.
So it's just paving.
They want to pave that intersection. All
I understand, but
the
the rest of it's all done.
mechanical's done. So they can get that open and then they'll go and then do that next, section up to the 600 block, that, 700 some feet. They'll get them all the houses tapped over and stuff. They've already got the sewer taps done. They're working on water and get them over and then get that poured, and then they'll start the second phase of that West Boston project through the American Recovery Fund money that we're working with the city on. Otherwise, they did another tap here on Ashland to go into the alley on the east side today. So they're hoping to get that pushed across. They're working diligently on getting that. They got it all fenced up and everything. It's hopefully going to be the quickest block of the bunch. So fingers crossed on that. Otherwise, we have been, our pumpage is up. I've got a company coming in to test. He goes around and listens on all the fire hydrants. I don't know if I explained to you with the little scooter. He's never been, we've had him in the 23 years I've been the superintendent. He's found leaks every year and I have him come in every year. So they get into storms, they get into sanitary sewers, they just don't surface sometimes. But pumpage is up just because so many people are watering. I
Swimming
seen
pools too, I saw.
on Des Moines, they're going every other day now. I seen that in the news before it came up.
So,
Uh,
back to your well 11, is that back online? now?
Back online, pumping, everything looks great, the pumpage is great. What I say it was a new pump, a new motor, new casing. And so it went real well. It was long for them, but they're good working crews, so. And the two guys on the first crew that got COVID, they're feeling much better. They're not back to work yet, and the other two guys are back. So it just hit all four and boom, took them down. So that delayed us a little bit, but otherwise, very, very busy. That's all.
Lou, when, so the, whatever you call him, the guy looking for the leaks, generally, how long is he in town?
He usually can do his thing, and depending on if he finds, the more he finds, the slower it goes, but he's usually 2 or 3 days. It's like a $4,000 contract we have with him annually, and he's well worth it. He'll give us a report
Oh,
that
yeah.
shows, this will be the first time I'm talking about it. It'll probably be, if he doesn't find a leak, it'll be the first time. And we've had, in the last 2 weeks, we've had 3 house services on different sections of town that they're hearing water inside their home. They're hearing something. We go in, oh, your water service is leaking. So they have to run a new line in. It doesn't matter if it's an older home, 1970s or 80 home, or even a 2000 home. It's unbelievable. Their ground shift, El Nino or whatever it is, it's killing them. There's a lot of that going on. So, but I think he'll find something. We'll find out, I guess.
Thanks, Luke. Next for the communication utility.
I don't know, it's a lot. Business as usual. We've been very busy the last couple of weeks. 50 installs last 2 weeks of the month here. So looking like we'll end June around 85. So another busy month. So other than that, just juggling schedule, people take vacations, things like that to get through stuff. So we will begin working on the new FCC broadband data collection report in the next couple of weeks. That's a new FCCC report that's due on September 1st. But the thought process is they are looking to provide pinpoint data on where broadband service is available, and then that would drive how to fund future expansions with federal and state dollars. So everybody will be partaking in that, so it'll be interesting to see what those new maps look like.
So as we're approaching our fiscal year, what is your total customer count?
Yeah, we'll see where we're at. We're gonna run bills on Wednesday, so I'll get better count then. But yeah, we should be right around 3450, I think, probably.
And that'll be through June, right?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions for Mike, Lou, or Kurt? About combined electric, water, and communications, Chris?
Right, in your packet or for consideration is a resolution approving the liability, auto, property, work comp, machinery, equipment, and replacement insurance for fiscal year 23. I think joining us on Zoom will be Courtney Silliman from the city. And we also have Brad, what is your last name? Banks. From True North or Wyman and for a couple of words, so I'll
Brad, I might ask you to
Yes,
sit at
I
the
would.
table if you don't mind, since you don't have the podium up tonight.
I can move it.
This is just an easy-
Yes, thank you. My name is Brad Bankson. I am a risk consultant with True North Insurance as well as Weinman Insurance here in Indianola. In my practice area, I oversee many of our public entities. It's a practice group and expertise that I've worked with for the last 6 years in our office and organization, and have had the pleasure of working with the Weinman office and the city of Indianola and IMU for the past 5 years on the insurance specifically. And I'm here to answer some questions if there are any from the Board of Trustees, to walk through the insurance as needed. I think I'd open it up with questions first to see if there's any specific items that we'd like to discuss.
How much is our side of the bill?
So
400,000.
I don't have that. Courtney and I and our team worked through a spreadsheet to get that. Once the actual policies in force, ICAP actually will do a full breakout of your portion of that bill. And I don't know if Courtney can hear me on the line when she expects that breakout to come out.
What did we pay last year? Do we know that?
Just before you, Courtney, can you hear us?
Good evening. Yes, this is Courtney Silliman.
Good, thank you. I just want to make sure you were on. Go ahead.
Yes.
So for last year's budget, I might need to ask Chris if you've got that information floating around. For this year, what we are looking at is a $29,000 increase over what we expected. We budgeted approximately $15,000 for the ICAP related items that are on this ICAP worksheet that was in your packet. What we don't have, or what we are looking, Courtney's still working on right now, is the workers' comp allocation. But based upon the information we have here, our budget is going to, we're going to go about $29,000 over budget. We saw on average of about 23.5%, 24% increase in our premiums across our general liability. Auto was up something less at around 15. We have vehicles, property, and some other liability related premiums that all increased between 23 and 31%. So we'll be, our budget was 115,000, we'll be 29 over for the liability portions of it. The boiler and equipment will be the same as last year. We're on a 3-year price lock. That was approximately 39,000. And they've also added $1 million worth of cyber coverage that was included in our ICAP premiums last year. So it's a new policy taken out. And right now, that policy is $14,097. We're being asked to contribute half of that at $7,000. So all in all, comparable to last year on the liability side, we're going to be $36,000 over our budget.
And you're talking fiscal 23 budget.
Yep, for a fiscal 23 budget. Yeah, this is all the upcoming price and premium.
It's the renewal price.
Yep.
That's a pretty hefty increase.
Are we staying with the same insurance carrier?
That's the proposal, Leslie. is
Yes.
With True North and Wyman as our broker.
And Iowa Communities Assurance Pool is who writes the property and casualty portion of your insurance. The workers' comp is through the Iowa Municipal Workers' Compensation Association. Your machinery and boiler or your equipment breakdown is through Cincinnati insurance companies. And your cyber will be written through Obsidian Insurance, which is Cowbell Cyber. And you do have a separate crime policy that actually doesn't go into effect until August. That is your government officials crime bond that you have. That is not on this. This is not on the same renewal cycle. And I think that that's down this year.
Can you explain why the large increase?
Yes.
Was it claim?
It was not claims. So claims activity with the Iowa Communities Assurance Pool and IMWCA, claims specifically are not surchargeable. They're underwritable. If there's a lot of claims happening, they may take a look around insurability, but the claims themselves do not surcharge your pricing. The pricing increases for the most part are going to be exposure-based with some rate increase. The exposure-based portion is, for instance, on property coverage, the city and IMU last year, the total amount we insured for property, so your total insured value for property was $144,798,080. That's a blanket limit for all property that the city and IMU owns. That increased to $155,387,122.
Did we
So
add
$11 million increase.
$11 million, that's for the valuations of the buildings.
And that was all existing, the same
Exi-
property from year to year.
It looks like during the term last year, there was about 190,000 in property added during the term, and that could be miscellaneous equipment. That's all property together. The year-over-year increase is that valuation. What goes into that valuation is an 8% inflation guard. Normally on insurance, and what we've seen over the past 20 years in insurance is inflation guard built into a policy is between 2 and 4%. Over the last couple of years, 2 and 4% just don't hit the inflation number. So it's an 8% inflation on the amount of insurance that we have on this. The last true valuation of the city was done by ICAP using a third party called Valuations Northwest. That was done over the summer of 2018. So they got all replacement valuations done at that time. And then we've had inflation guard continually increasing the valuations to make sure that we have proper insured to value.
So would that evaluation take place again in 23 then? If you said
I don't know when they have the next one scheduled. I don't know if it's a 5-year one. The first time they did it with Valuations Northwest was in 2018. And they did it for all cities within the program.
There's a part that says it might be wise for us to do that. Just to see,
Sorry.
just to see where we're at, because we're, at this point in time, we increased it $11 million. We don't even really know for sure if that really covers everything unless we have some kind of an audit or a check on that, I would think. Unless I'm misunderstanding that.
So you're not, absolutely, 100% agree with you there. With insurance, the reason that they have that inflation guard is to make sure there is some valuation going in buildings. The worst possible scenario is obvious, the maximum probable loss. If the worst catastrophe were to come through, have we transferred the risk properly to the insurance carrier by carrying your insurance to value? If the worst possible catastrophic storm comes through and we find to reconstruct everything to like, kind, and quality is 170 million, we're probably going to have a different conversation at that one too. So this is a blanket limit. What the blanket limit entails is that you have access to that $155 million regardless of the size of loss. So it's not done on a per building basis. If there is a building that we have insured on the schedule for hypothetically $2 million, and that building were to be total loss in a fire, and we find out that it's going to cost $3 million to replace it, you are covered for that full replacement cost up to $155 million. And that's the importance of having blanket insurance, specifically with a municipality, any sort of governmental subdivision. There are going to be items that get missed. There's departments that may purchase something that wasn't told up the chain to get it onto the insurance policy. So having a blanket limit gives us that extra bit of comfort, knowing that we do have a large limit of insurance. With inflation and construction costs and cost of lumber and labor, 8% inflation guard is what ICAP did. How that works out to your insurance, property insurance, we look at a net rate. What's the net rate, the cost of your insurance? It's about 12.7%. So a 12-cent net rate per $1,000 in valuations. To give some context around that, I just recently renewing a school district in the metro area that has roughly the same amount of property that they're insuring, and they're with an insurance carrier. Their property net rate was 16 cents. So ICAP over the years, up until 2020, their property rate has never changed. It was a 10-cent net rate per thousand of valuation. 2020 was a tough year for most insurance companies in the Midwest, but those that insured public entities, both municipalities as well as school district, saw a bulk of losses. That was the first time the ICAP raised their rates. Last year, your net rate was 11.5 cents. This year, it's 12.7. So it's 12.7 cents per thousand. So there was a property rate increase with ICAP, as well as an increase in the overall valuations for the city and IMU. And the breakouts that we do have and that ICAP will provide to us will show what each of the specific buildings and each of the specific pieces of equipment that we're insuring are down to a dollar cost.
And has council seen this?
It has not been released yet.
No.
That has
So
not been
we're the
released.
first eyes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
But the council did
we talked
discuss
about
it.
it. We talked about it on Monday.
Okay.
There was no objection.
So they've seen the price increase and the council moved ahead with signing up for the July 1 renewal. Is that true?
Yes, because we needed to have coverage. We have 10 days to review these rates. So yes, we need coverage, and so those are ongoing conversations with what we do next.
Yeah.
But we'd like to leave that IMU on this conversation.
Thank you. I know we talked, it would be nice to have a little bit more lead time knowing this increase.
I completely agree. And I'm not here to make excuses for anyone, but with insurance companies and specifically ICAP, They buy reinsurance. So they insure to a certain amount and then they cede the rest of that risk off to a reinsurance company, just like every other insurance company does. Those reinsurance treaties go into effect on fiscal years as well, July 1. So they don't have their reinsurance rates, what they have to charge to their membership until into June. So we have to wait for it as well. And most cities that ICAP and other insurance companies cover are all 7/1 dates. There's a few that are on January 1 and a few.
How many-
off fiscals. Go ahead,
How
yes.
many different insurance companies did you get quotes from?
This year, none, just your incumbent renewal carriers. ICAP has been the insurance carrier for, according to the document here, since 7/1 of 1991 was the inception date for ICAP. The market for public entity insurance in Iowa and pretty much all states is very tight. There's not a lot of insurance carriers that will even play in the space. One, it's a large property schedule and a lot of times it's older buildings. So they're tougher for insurance companies to insure. A big portion of it is on the liability side of things with public officials liability and law enforcement legal liability. A lot of standard market insurance carriers will not even offer to quote because the exposure is too great for their reinsurance treaty. ICAP was
But
developed.
there are others.
There are others. Currently in the state of Iowa, the two main public entity insurers are ICAP and EMC Insurance, downtown Des Moines. We have clients with both. In our experience, EMC does well on cities and municipalities that are less than 15,000 in population. Their program was built out in the late 70s. It was really never meant to contemplate larger cities. They do have a few larger cities, but most of the larger cities in the state are either with ICAP or some of them do self-insure. And then with self-insurance, they do buy excess stopgap insurance to make sure that their exposure is set at a certain level. Currently, the largest city that we have that's insured with EMC is the city of Johnston. All other metro cities that we oversee are all with ICAP.
Johnston's pretty sizable.
And I think Johnston is going to have to go to a different carrier next year because it has outgrown their current one. We're going to work over the next year on that one.
My problem with the whole thing is the process. For us to have to, well, for the city, they decided and they had very short notice too. It's a lot of money to say, yep, it's fine, let's go forward. It's not right in my book. It's not okay.
Well taken. I definitely understand that. And we do our best to get the numbers out as quick as possible, but as the broker or agent, we're at the behest of the
Well,
insurance
then I
carriers.
feel like we should have a longer period of time to do our due diligence to approve it.
I would agree. I just feel like having a few hours in front of a meeting to review it and to consider it and to understand it, and then have to move on it because we can't be without insurance is putting our backs against the wall. And the city did what they had to do. I think part of this is just, everything is inflating. I understand that, but this seems exceptionally high.
Just from offer my experience outside of here, I'm seeing the same things with
Are
two
you?
other entities that I'm involved with. Yeah.
Did you have to
The
make a
property.
snap decision like we're having to make?
Not necessarily, but
And were you able to consider other carriers or other options? Or you just
yes,
chose to
and
go
that
forward and
didn't
didn't
change the
share anything?
results.
But you have the ability to do it,
Yes.
or the opportunity, I should say.
Well, I would say at this point in time, I don't disagree with anything anybody said. But at the same time, we don't have any choice.
Right.
So, but I think we need to have a conversation going forward. So I would make a motion that we approve this.
So the resolution is to approve liability, auto, property, workers' comp, and machinery and equipment replacement insurance for fiscal year 23.
That's exactly what I said.
And I would second that, but I have a question I'd like to ask too.
Yes.
On the cyber
Mhm.
insurance, $1 million policy, is that enough for an entity
Yeah.
the size of the city and with IMU?
Super question. it's hard to say what is enough because it's going to be how much are you either going to get, are you liable for or ransomware for? The issue in the cyber market right now is capacity. I'm not sure we could get more than 1 million currently.
Well, the fact that, I guess, see, that's a great point, and the fact that that's a service that we offer, would that, I would assume, would put us at higher risk than another community that doesn't offer fiber.
There's definitely inherent risk involved in that since it's one step further than
And even
many
with different
communities.
insurance that covers that,
I mean, not on the operational side. This is really compromised. So the items to consider are if our systems get compromised and we lose customer information. We have limited proprietary, customer information. I think the city's got that similar information on their side. From a risk perspective, I know Kirk looked at this for a number of years, so we kind of just refreshed that. Municipalities are, I don't want to say, they're typically less risky. There's a lot of the costs required of a private company to, if you've got a compromised customer information, to provide credit monitoring and items like that. We don't have those requirements as part of the municipal government. So our risks and compared to the private industry are much less. That's not to say that $1 million is the answer, but when you compare a municipal agency and what the legal liability and risk is and a private company, it's much higher on the private side.
Just for a little bit of context on it, again, municipalities, there is an exposure there. You're a target. With your cyber liability is a little different than your normal liability. And I'm not meaning to talk down anyone. It's a weird thing versus regular liability. You've got first and third party liability for the cyber breach piece of it. Think of your personally identifiable information that's stolen. You have to pay to have that forensically and analyzed. And then notifications have to go out if you've got 100,000 different PPIIs, personally identifiable information. Each one of those have to be notified. The cost per notification on average in the market's about $100. So those costs are all included in that $1 million of liability. You also have to worry about the cyber criminal element. That is where they breach your system. They lock and secure your data. They encrypt it. They send you a note saying, we have hacked you. You owe us X amount in Bitcoin. If you don't pay us in a day, that goes up by 50%. That claims process then is a little different than a normal property or liability. That's how you.
I'm
joking. So with the claim process, on a property claim, you talk to a property insurance adjuster, liability claim, liability insurance adjuster, and so on and so forth. The first people you talk to on a cyber claim is a coverage lawyer. The second one is a breach lawyer. There's no adjusters involved. They are the ones that go out and negotiate the cost of that ransom. There's a discussion. Do we pay for the ransom? Do we pay to rebuild all of our data? When was our last backup? So what goes into this is the behind the scenes, the proactive security protocols. In Unola and IMU have good security protocols, but they're never going to be enough. You're never going to be in front of the cyber criminal. Multi-factor authentication is the minimum now, making sure that people have a two-way sign-in for remote users, anyone who's using the email on their phones. Endpoint data encryption, making sure all your endpoints are capped off. Full firewalls are obviously important, which you guys have, but you're at the behest of being in front of the criminals who do this all the time. So that's why you buy the insurance. 4 years ago, I probably could have gotten you guys $3 or $4 million for $10,000 in premium. This year, the capacity the market was offering was $1 million for a public entity, and that was the cost of it.
Is there an opportunity to do layers though? I've seen other.
We can possibly do layers. The layers usually depend on the industry that you're in.
Yeah.
What do you mean by
layers? So you get insurance like at $1 million with one company, and then the second million with another company, another million with a third company.
You tower it up, and we see that a lot in the regular liability space. We're starting to see it in cyber. The issue with cyber is it's not a standardized insurance policy. Your liability is a standardized policy, so you can layer excess over it. The cyber, every company has a different one. It's just not standardized in the insurance industry at this time. And I'm not sure it can ever be because it's such a different exposure. It's one that you really can't plan for, unfortunately. What you can do is be proactive about your security protocols, and like everything else, transfer any risk you can. And that's what you're doing through your insurance contracts, whether it be through your property liability, you're paying to transfer the risk of that breach or exposure, have someone else handle it for you.
I have one additional question before we vote. Courtney, can you hear us?
Yes.
They mentioned you were working on a spreadsheet that had IMU accountability and city accountability. When will you have that available that you can share with us?
The breakout for the risk renewal with ICAP was shared with Chris Longer already. The IMWCA, I received confirmation on our deposit today from IMWCA, and I can have that first thing. It's already broke out. I just didn't have enough hours in the day today.
Okay, so that's the only the outstanding piece then.
Yeah, so the ICAP.
Yeah.
That Chris mentioned earlier, like the 144,000 of the total,
370.
of that is for IMU's 144,000.
Okay.
That's 29,000 above what we have in the budget.
Yep. And it's a 29 plus half cyber as well. So the total of $36,000 of over budget contemplation.
Okay. All right. In order to keep us moving, I will move us to a vote. This is a roll call. Right?
Yes. Yep. Board Member Voigt,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Forbush. Board Member Forbush,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Rosga.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
all
you.
for being
I
part
do
of
one
this.
last, every person that I've worked with, both with IMU and the city, have been excellent. They're very attentive. They come to our safety committee meetings and they do a great job. And a lot of times that just gets missed. They do a great job, and the culture that they've built out and your department has built out is a very, very admirable one. We work with a lot of cities. Not many cities have what you guys have as far as building out a culture.
Great. Thank you for saying so. And thanks to the team for being so conscious about it. All right, we'll move on to any other combined items, Chris.
Just a quick update on solar. We've got an update that isn't a huge update. The site analysis, everything except for the soil analysis is done. The soil analysis will take a couple of more weeks, but otherwise our site will fit and suit the needs. So we're ready to go forward. Waverly is still in the same process. I think they're not as far as we are yet as far as the site approval. They're still waiting on the soil analysis. That will be the last of the lab works. And I think, as the attorneys have gone back and forth through a contract, we're arriving at something that's pretty close. There's still a couple of sticking points to work out. Certainly, for that negotiation going forward, I think one way or another, we're going to reach a resolution here shortly. And I think both sides are kind of have some decisions about how much further they're willing to go in the negotiation. So,
Is there a point where those sticking points need to come back to us to give some direction to the attorney?
I think that's we're close on that. We originally were negotiating with and combined with Waverly, and there's certainly I think some Waverly specific sticking points that are not necessarily the same concern as ours. So we're still supportive of them in their negotiation. But I think they may be less important. And at a certain point, if they're going to hold firm, it'll need to come back to us. And, this is the area in terms that we can't resolve for where there's a difference in. And we're hoping to get all that wrapped up, but We're nearing that.
There comes a point where I support kind of going in step with Waverly and jointly with them, but if they're holding us up, we need to split away.
Yeah, and that's, some of those discussions are approaching that. We
What about the
wanted
rest of
to
the communities? Is everybody else done?
No, the other states are done.
Oh, so there's only 2 Iowa entities that are,
There's some more, but the others have basically said, let us know when it's
Okay,
done.
okay.
There's 4 communities. Indianola, Waverly are the ones kind of taking charge, and Waverly certainly is driving, and we're following back, and conversations with the attorney are progressing, but I think they're reaching a point one way or another.
Any other items? Or other business? I would entertain a motion to go into closed session. So moved. Jackie, do you do roll call?
Is somebody gonna call me, or are we just gonna stay where we are?
Just stay where you're at, Leslie.
Okay,
Board Member Forbush,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Rosga,
yes.
Hoyt,
Yes.
White.
Yes.